So why are we doing this? So about 2 months ago, myself and a couple of colleagues who normally run our virtual, our on location work experience, got together and said, how can we provide an opportunity, give students, young people, a flavour of working at RWE without them actually being able to come to a power station or a central department. So with the support of Pathways and a massive commitment from the team at RWE who are joining each session today, we've put together this as what we believe will be insightful, interesting, and hopefully thought-provoking for you all as you consider what your future careers might be and education might look like. So what do we got to look forward to? Session 1, this is all about an introduction to RWE, energy, and engineering. We're going to find out a bit more about RWE Group, a global energy business with a purpose statement, our energy for a sustainable life. We've got a mission to operate carbon neutral by 2040. And for me, that's really exciting because that's ahead of the majority of targets in all of our key regions. So we're pushing the boundaries with the technology and the way we're trying to operate. Our core markets, and Toby and Arthur will expand on this and tell you a bit more, is going to be a renewable power future supported by flexible and efficient thermal power stations and hydro for backup when the wind doesn't blow, when the sun doesn't shine, we still need electricity and energy to run our lives in our homes. And we've also got a world-class trading business to get that energy to you in your homes. So Toby and Arthur will take you through all that structure. We'll then focus in on RWE, learn a bit more about what we do in this country, and then really dive into some of the technology. So this is where my own love for power and energy started. I studied engineering at university, electrical and mechanical, and have worked for RWE now since 2013, so coming up for 7 years. And engineering's where it all started for me, and I got really excited. We're going to focus in on biomass and gas power stations because those are two of our key technologies for the UK generation business. So after that, in the 4 breakout rooms that Toby mentioned, we've got Laura, a power station operator. We've got Rory, a final year craft apprentice. We've got Mark, not Mark that's on the call right now, but another Mark, who's a control and instrumentation engineer from our technical support department. And we've got Mitchell, who's a non-destructive testing technician. And they're going to tell you about the variety of jobs that they do. So get thinking and ask them loads of questions and make that as an interactive session as possible, and hopefully get some really interesting insight into different and the variety of STEM careers that we have at RWE. After lunch, Monty's already shared, William and Mark Field, who we've got on the call already, are going to be showing us around Little Barford Power Station. This is really exciting for me as well, because I've actually only ever visited the engineering offices. So this is going to be my first insight into Little Barford Power Station as well. So I'm excited to join you on that tour. And then our final structured session for today is going to be 3 breakouts. Toby and Arthur, who are on the call just now, are going to be sharing a bit more about their school to university to industrial placement experience. We've got Rory and Mitchell, who will also be in the interactive sessions earlier in the day, sharing what school through apprenticeship into work looks like. And Karen, who's just been with us as well, sharing 3 top tips to begin preparing now for your next career step. So make sure you've got a pen and paper ready, because there's going to be some fantastic insight and information throughout today. And I hope you'll be able to capture that and take it away and reflect on it after that. At the end of all of that, we'll wrap up in classic presentation style. I'm going to reflect on and tell you, revise all those key points and hopefully embed some of those key learnings that we've had through the day. And we're going to have a very open Q&A. We've got 20 minutes at the end of the day for an open Q&A with as many panelists as we can have on. So save up those questions if they don't get answered through the day, and we'll come to you then. So that's all I'd like to kind of say. Hopefully that's a useful framing for what we're going to go through. And now I think it's appropriate to hand over to Toby and Arthur to really take us into RWE, energy and engineering.
Amazing. Toby and Arthur, you should be able to share your slides if you're ready to. If not, let me know and I have them on hand.
Okay. So I am one of the year in industry students here at RWE Generation, and I'm going to go through the first half of the introductory slide before passing it on to Walter, who is the other year in industry student. Okay, so RWE has the operating business as well as the financial portfolio. So under the operating business, we have RWE Renewables. So they mainly in charge of onshore wind, offshore winds, your solar panels, your storage technologies. So they produce electricity from renewable sources. We have RWE Generation, where the technical support at Swindon will fall under, as well as Little Barford. So we produce electricity from gas, hardcore, hydropower, and biomass. So gas and hardcore would be renewable, and would be non-renewable, and hydropower and biomass would be renewable. So we have employees both in the UK, RWE Generation, in the Netherlands and Germany. Then you have RWE Power, which is mainly based in Germany, and they generate electricity from lignite and nuclear power. Then lastly, in the operating business, we have RWE Supply and Trade, so the interface sort of between all the generating units of business and the markets, the electricity market. So the one electricity market in the UK, markets in the Netherlands or in Germany. So just over the rest that will not run out anytime soon, so they replenish themselves in a short period of time. So you have, for example, you have the wind. So this generates electricity from, uses the mechanical power of the wind to generate electricity. You have the solar panels, uses sunlight to generate electricity. You have biomass, so plants, wood to generate, so you convert the chemical energies from those to produce electricity. You have hydroelectric, so this uses water, so you have your dam from a high position to a low position, and this spins a turbine to produce electricity. So all this would be under renewables because they don't run out anytime soon. Then you have your non-renewables, so fossil fuels, which your hard coal and your gas would fall under. So those are the ones that produce out of the greenhouse gases. And then you could also produce electricity from nuclear, which is non-renewable but is carbon neutral, just as an alternative also for non-renewable sources. Then after producing your electricity, so talking about from it, your grid transports the electricity produced from your source. So you could say somewhere around here you would have your source, whether renewable or non-renewable. You produce the energy to rotate your generator, which produces electricity, and then you have your step-up transformer, which increases the voltage of that electricity to transmit over long distances to your homes. So where you need them, your factories, your shops, you have your step-down transformer down here to bring down the voltage back to the levels required at home. So that's the basis. So you have your source, then you go to your grid, and then you have your demand. So the electricity produced by the grid has to match the demand of the users, the end consumers, so us or the factories that produce the things we need. So as you can see here, the demand varies depending on the time of the day or the season of the year. So for example, during winter, you have two peaks where you have, this would be early in the morning or late at night when people are coming back from work. You have your eating going on. So the demand varies compared to summer with just one peak. Then just showing overview of your generation. So at a specific time of the day, right, you have multiple generations sort of working together. So early in the morning, for example, when there is no sun, or late at night, quite early in the morning before sunrise, you have wind taking majority of the generation to match your demand. Before, as you go over the day, the different equipment, so the different generation, speaking specifically in terms of our RWE group, so we have generating capacity all around the UK and Ireland. So in Scotland, we have 473 megawatts of generating capacity. In Wales, we have 2,652 megawatts of generating capacity. In England, we have 6,415 megawatts of generating capacity. And as you could see here, you have, so they're usually a combination. So you have, in Wales, you have onshore wind, offshore wind. So those would be renewable and hydro, generating from water, from water, and then you have gas, which is non-renewable. So RWE has both sources for generating electricity. Then speaking specifically for RWE Generation UK, you have Generation UK, which we and Little Badford do fall under, sorry. We have the large gas turbines that produce electricity from Pembroke in Wales and Stateup in the UK. We also have Little Badfords, who are on the core. You have Mackinch, which are up in Scotland, so they produce electricity from biomass. And then we have the technical support, so we that were based in Swindon, as well as the mechanical guys in Ferrobridge, or helping with the maintenance of board. And then I would pass it on to the other year in industry student to continue on with the presentation. I think you're mute.
Can you hear Arthur? I can't hear you, Arthur, right now.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
I can hear you.
Sweet.
Yes.
Can't see you though, but we can hear you.
To start. Can you see me now?
Yeah, we can see you and hear
Yes.
you.
Oh my. So, as I'll repeat, so I'm the other year in industry. So I'm Toby's colleague. So I work in the materials team. And she's doing replacement in the electrical team. So just a bit of background, as you didn't get to see my introductions earlier. So as Toby may have mentioned, in the company UK, so RGen UK, we have two main types of plants. We have biomass, so we have the plant station up in Markinch, and then the rest of our fleet is gas turbine. So I'm going to first discuss basically biomass, which is part of the broader group of thermal power plant, which is kind of the basic conventional type of power plant. So coal, waste, and biomass are all part of that. So basically what they do is they generate heat. So they have basically a big kettle. So you burn some wood here that generates a fire, basically heat, and that takes in water. Sorry, there's a bit of a delay. So it takes in water and it comes out as steam. So this steam is power. So kind of as you see it coming out of a kettle. And basically we spin a turbine, which then spins a generator, and electricity comes out from 3 hours at the back. So it's very simple. I mean, once you get more into it, there's a lot more to it, but it's quite simple. So just kind of keep that in your mind, and we'll go on to explain gas turbines, which are kind of an add-on to this. Sorry, a bit of a delay. So yeah, so we're spaced at Little Barford, has been previously mentioned. So this is a gas turbine site. It's about 720 megawatts, so it's not quite the biggest in our fleet, but it's our third biggest, I believe. So just to give you an idea, about 1 megawatt is enough power for 1,000 homes. So as you can see, it's still quite a substantial setup. So it's 2 gas turbines, 1 steam turbine. So we'll get onto that. It's relatively new, so it was built in '96. So here's a video that hopefully works. Toby, could you play it? Won't let me. So, yeah. So just as a heads up, a gas turbine is very similar to what you'll see on the plane engine, basically. So it's just kind of a souped up version of that. So this video will kind of go through the basics of it, and then we'll build up on that if it plays. No, no worries. Cool. Toby, can you just skip that slide?
You know what we could do? We could possibly pop it in the link in the chat box, if we can do that, and then at the end the student can click on it to watch it themselves.
No worries. No worries. Can we just go?
Oh, it's playing now.
Air. A lot of gaseous molecules floating all around us. It's great for breathing, and it turns out it's great for getting lights turned on. That's because
Toby, no one
air,
can see
along
it.
with abundant natural gas or other fuels, are the ingredients that combine in a
it.
gas turbine to spin the generator that produces electric current. If you follow the electricity you use at home or at work back
Toby,
through the
can you
power
skip
lines to your local power plant,
Yeah, I'm just going to do that now.
Yeah, it's not on the actual presentation. Can you put it back?
That's okay. We could just share it with the students afterwards.
Yeah, no worries about that.
To
Okay.
get themselves.
I think you're in charge.
Yeah, Toby, can you put in full screen? It's not working on mine right now.
Okay.
No worries. So we did have a run through yesterday, but it seems the tech gods have not favored us today.
Always happen. Always the way.
So just
Next page.
cool. So I'll regroup. So we can get a look. So basically, I'll explain the basics of a gas turbine. So it's basically, as I said, it's like a souped up jet engine. So it takes in air. You can see here up from the, can you go back to the last? Sorry, so that's a new. Not sure what's happening.
Do you guys want me to share from my side perhaps? Because I've got the PDF.
Yeah, can you just share? Yeah, it seems to be breaking down.
Let me do that. Give me a sec to open it up. So I've got it on a PDF format. Let me know once you can see it. You see that? My screen? Yeah?
Yeah, I can.
Let me know when to stop after.
Yeah, no worries.
Was it just here?
Yeah, this slide. I'll try. Yeah, this one here. I'll try my best because the last one, the image is overlaid, so you won't see the base schematic. So, no worries. So how a gas turbine works, it's like a jet engine. So it takes in air. So from here, so I think you can see my mouse. Well, so it takes in air from the exhaust and then compresses it. So it gets it real tight, real squishes it down, and then it'll inject fuel. So it'll have basically these lances and it'll throw gas in. And then it'll explode. And as it comes out, it spins the turbine. So a bit like our earlier thermal plant. So you have something spinning. So you'll spin the turbine and that connects to a generator and spins that. So you generate electricity from there. So basically you take in and there's an explosion and you spin it. So as you can see in this diagram here, so we can work a gas turbine by itself and that generates electricity by itself. But we can also combine it with a steam cycle, which is basically a conventional power plant to generate more electricity. So what we do here is we use the hot air coming out of the gas turbine, goes into the boiler, which is known as a HRSG, heat recovery steam generator. This takes in water, as we saw before, and then makes steam. And then that steam goes into a steam turbine. And basically you have two cycles, both generating power. And then just cold air comes out of the HRSG. So that's what most of our plants have. Sorry. And yeah, so if you go back a slide now, please. So I just thought I'd give you a bit more facts about a gas turbine. So when I said they get hot, they get quite hot. So our fleet leaders, GT26s, they get over 1,000 degrees. And we cool them with air that's about 500 for some of the earlier stage blades. So it's extremely hot temperatures. They're quite big, about 12 meters long, 6 meters high. So they're very big structures. They're extremely expensive. So as you can see that little blade there, that's worth about 30,000, and there's 196 of them, and that's just the first of 5 rows. This is quite a lot of blades, and they come out in quite a state. So it probably won't work, but I have a prop. I have a blade that's gone through a power plant. As you can see, there's a section of it missing. It's been all oxidized and messed up. So hopefully I'll show that a bit more later in the Q&A session. But it's very hot. It's a very intense environment. So can you go forward 2 slides now, please? Thank you very much. So the steam turbines, on the other hand, aren't quite as hot. So they only maybe go to about 600 degrees, but they're far bigger because they need to be that size to get all that power out. So as you can see, top right, you have a full setup, and you can see just at the bottom, just on the side of that top right image, you can see a forklift. So that kind of gives you an idea of the scale. And the biggest blades are the last stage blades, and they're about, as you can see from the image, nearly as tall as the men. So they're much, much bigger structures. And they're as expensive, and as you saw in the thermal power plant, they're the conventional type. So what all base power plants, what all power plants have been for most of history. So when we started with steam turbines, that kind of kicked off the Industrial Revolution. So your next slide, please. So as you may have saw in one of the earlier slides, Barford has 2 gas turbines and 1 steam turbine. So it's basically kind of a slightly more complicated system of the closed cycle. So as you saw in the closed cycle, we had 1 gas turbine. It exhausted hot air that went into the HRST boiler, which then went into the steam turbine. And both these turbines had their own generator generating power. So Little Barford is a step above that, and they have 2 gas turbines, each with their own generator, as you can see. Both of these exhaust hot air into their own individual boiler. And then these boilers then join together and go straight into a steam turbine and have their own steam cycle. So that's how the setup is. And you can see they all have their generator, each have their boiler. So it's quite a complicated setup once you get into it. So in the next slide. So this is actually Little Barford. So this is the station we'll get to see in a bit. So you can see bottom left, we have the gas turbines. So there's 1 each. We also see slightly towards the bottom of the gas turbines, the transformers. So that's where the power comes out of the generators. The generators are in the middle and goes straight into the grid. Then the gas turbines, you see both exhaust, so kind of the purplish wire, they each go to their own HRST, their own boiler. And these then combine together to go into the steam cycle. So that's kind of your main power generating setup. And then you have the cooling tower where the steam is then cooled back to water to restart the cycle. And where Andrew Allen's been, so the engineering offices, is on the right side of the image. So that's where a lot of the admin and the people work at. So during the tour, I believe you'll get to see most of the setups of the HRST, the gas turbines, maybe kind of the generators, transformers, and the steam cycle. You'll know when you're in the HRSG because it's just a mess of tubes and pipes and whatnot. So next slide, please. So yes, I wanted to finish hopefully on going back on a point that Andrew Allen had earlier mentioned about how in power plants we have a wide diversity in engineering. So not only is there the ones you'll hear about today, because we won't be able to cover all of them, but there's even more. So for example, we have mechanical engineers who keep care of like the rotating, so the steam turbine, the gas turbine, the actual moving parts, and the statics of the HRSG. So we'll have boiler engineers who keep care of these massive boilers which you can stand in. Like I don't think you'll quite get the scale till you see the tour. These are very big. You have the electrical engineers, which both Andrew and Toby were, so they keep care of the generator and the transformer, which are very big things. The generators, massive copper things. Transformers used to be like the heaviest thing put on a UK road. So you had to, it used to be a problem to bring transformers to stations. So one of our stations, we actually had to hire a boat to drop it off. They're very big things. This is in Pembroke. And then you'll get to meet NDT, non-destructive testing. So they actually look at the metal. So they might scan it, or the material, sorry, they might scan it, see if we can still run it, what issues there are, and also meet an operator, so that the people in the control room actually turning it on and off, making sure the station runs smoothly, doesn't blow up or whatnot. You also have like materials engineers, so also I currently do, so we'll actually look at what the metal's made of and make sure it's good enough for the conditions. So for example, the blades use a very specialized type of metal because it gets so hot, as I said, over 1,000 degrees. So you can't just put steel because that would just disappear within seconds. Maintenance engineer, maintenance technician, so they kind of keep the whole plant up to state. So you'll also get to meet one of those in a bit. Then control and instrumentation engineer, which I must admit I'm not too familiar with, but I've seen the slides that are coming up and they're very interesting. There's a whole setup about controlling water, which really introduces the topic quite well. And then there's civil engineers, so they actually make sure the station works. And the station is like the actual building holds, and it's not just like a warehouse. We have cranes, massive cranes that can lift the rotors out inside them, and these move up and down, and they can cause all manners of issues. And then we also have chemists and environmental engineers, so they make sure we actually don't do pollution, we make sure the water's all in good state and whatnot. So there's a wide array of engineer on display. You'll only get to see a section of it, but I just wanted to make you aware. And also, just to harken to the point that if you like STEM and you're really into engineering, there's many different things you can do, and you'll definitely find something that really suits you and you'll really enjoy. So that's my presentation.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Toby and Arthur, for that insight. And I can see Andrew's answering all of your questions that are coming in. So a lot of you guys have posted some really, really cool and interesting questions. So do have a look at the Q&A box to see the answers that Andrew has provided to some of the questions. So I know that just have a look at those questions, and Andrew's given some really, really great insightful answers. So that would be great. I don't know if Andrew, you wanted to add anything post Toby and Arthur's part.
Nothing directly on the presentation. I think that was a really comprehensive kind of story about how do we start as a group through to how do we actually generate power in one of our locations. So thanks, Toby and Arthur, for that. Really cool, and I think also really nice to see some of those locations in theory and some of those technologies before we actually go and see them on site. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a flavour for how that technology works, so that when we join Mark and Will on site later, we can start to understand where they're going and what we're seeing on screen. I can answer some of the questions live as well, if that's okay.
So that's what I was thinking. So if you've got any questions coming in now, post that presentation from Toby and Arthur, Andrew, Toby, Arthur, and we also have Mark on the call, we can start asking those questions. So start popping them in, and I can perhaps read them out to you guys, and you guys can pick like who would like to answer. So we do have a question from Nichama, and the question is, are there any physicists working for RWE?
So actually, one of the people organizing this, Tom Hoey, is actually from he studied astrophysics, and then he did a PhD in the energy sector. So we actually do have quite a few because it's a STEM subject.
Yeah. Cool. I guess that answers your question. But how, in terms of where the physicists work, do you guys have like a variety of areas, or is it just like a specialized focus for physicists in one specialized area?
So I think physics underpins everything in engineering. I think people talk about, engineering, being the manifestation of physics in some ways, and ultimately everything we do is based on those equations that govern the way our world works. So we need people that can understand that. And if you've got a good physics background and understanding, you can actually go into many different engineering disciplines and roles. So in the last graduate intake, for example, we've had a PhD physicist join parts of our environmental and performance team, and she's going to be looking at optimizing how we run our assets and making sure they're compliant. We've also got colleagues who I think one of our engineering managers is from a physics background as well. He's come through a more mechanical engineering type career path. And yeah, he's now one of our engineering managers at a power station. So with a physics background, you can actually go in a lot of different directions, even into electrical type technologies as well.
That's amazing. Thank you for that. And then we've got an interesting question from Sienna. And the question is, do you have a cybersecurity team to protect your data and interactions?
We do. We've actually got two. We've got a cyber team within our engineering department. So we've got cyber teams that are specifically looking at our power stations and how we ensure that they're safe and secure. And over the recent years, we've seen the number of cyber attacks and attempts into our network increase, and those are all actively and carefully managed. We also have a cyber team within our IT department. So obviously we're all using laptops for the kind of admin side of the job as well, and there's an IT infrastructure around that and servers and all sorts. So we've got cyber teams within that as well. They talk together, they work together as well, but slightly different remits.
Cool. So loads of different areas to kind of go into, including cybersecurity. We've also got a question from an anonymous attendee about a salary. So the question was, what's the salary like for an engineering job at RWE?
Salaries for engineering jobs in general and at RWE. So I think salaries vary depending on your career and your experience and your specific role within the business. I think engineering is a really good career space with some solid salaries. I think if it all comes back to reflecting on trying to understand, what do you want in life and where do you want to pitch, and if money is your driver, go to investment banking. But at the same time, realize that you're going to have to work twice the number of hours. It's going to be a really stressful job, and it's going to be really fast paced. So I find that my salary in engineering for work-life balance is really comfortable. I'm pretty happy with the career that I've got, with the salary that I've got, and the fact that I'm able to work a relatively 9-to-5 job with a few exceptions and a few extensions on that where it needs to happen. So I feel really well rewarded with my salary and package at RWE.
Yeah, I guess it's about weighing up what's most important to you. Whether you want to do like something that you're passionate about, and if money is really important to you, there's loads of information online to find out about like generic salary for different roles. There's a question from Sonia. I'm not sure if it's something that you guys can answer, but it's about fracking. How will you address the controversies surrounding it?
So I think one of the previous questions I've already answered asked about fracking and what was RWE's position on it. And I think just to be really clear, so gas is one of the key power generating technologies that we use. However, our business is about converting that fuel into energy for use in your homes and in industry. We don't have any involvement in the sourcing of that fuel in terms of how that's extracted. So we have a number of different fuel inputs, whether that's trading LNG or bringing it through the gas pipelines to our power stations. But ultimately, we buy that gas from the market and don't actually have a part in the process that extracts it from the ground. I think we acknowledge that there are controversies around it, but in terms of our direct business, we're not involved in the extraction or creation of the gas fuels we use. Our business is to convert that into the energy that you need in your homes. Mark, is there anything you'd want to expand on that?
No, I think just on the fracking side, as you say, we don't have an input to that. We literally receive it on the power station. It's traded multiple times before we even see it. The gas we're burning today, we probably actually purchased initially 7 years ago. It's that far out, and we trade it, we sell it, we buy it back, we sell it, we buy it back, and ultimately on the day like today, we make a decision whether we burn that gas or we sell it to someone else. It really is a relatively simple process. We have no control on that side of it at all. It's just there, it's coming through the pipeline, and we'll take it. That's pretty much it from that side.
We've got quite an interesting question from Charlie. What are each of your roles at RWE? It'd be nice to know.
So, go on, I'll go first if you want. So I'm the operations section head at Little Barford. So that means I run the team of operators. That's my team. They're here 24/7, on site all the way through, 365 days a year. So I actually lead that team, and I work closely with an opposite in the maintenance team, and we also sort of part of the management team on site as well. that's me.
Should go Arthur next because you're just on top of Mark for me.
No worries. So I work in the materials team. So I've two main jobs. So the first one is failure analysis. So things break in power plants. So I'll look at them and try figuring out what they break, what went wrong. So it's also called forensic engineering. So it's a bit like CSI. So that's pretty fun. And then the other thing we do in materials engineering, specifically for me, so I spend a lot of time working with the gas turbine blades that get very, very hot. So one of the things I do is I'll actually look at the base microstructure, so what they're made up. So you can see the image there, top right, is we have a very powerful microscope. So to give you an idea of the scale, so the little scale bar is 2 microns, and we can zoom in more, so we go really, really in depth to look at the different metals. So the metal there has been very hot, so it's not very nice and organized, but we kind of do that. And we also do a bit of modeling, the materials team, so the station won't be worried about something maybe blowing up or whatnot, and we'll model it and see how much more time it can be left on. So that's where we look at the actual base thing, and then we make why it broke or how long would it last before it breaks is what we basically do.
And Toby, perhaps?
Okay, so I'm working in the electrical group, so I'm doing mainly modeling, so sort of predicting. So for a few of our stations, we're trying to predict the effect of adding I've added in non-linear equipment. So as you had sort of modeling investigation of what effect adding different equipment would have on your system. So aside from just drawing current, so in terms of the electrical system, aside from just drawing currents, some equipment draws distorted currents, and this effect could lead to damaging other equipment over time. So kind of accessing how excessive those effects would be to mitigate while you're procuring for more equipment. So those sort of modeling.
Amazing. And then Andrew.
So I've had a few different jobs with RWE.
Can you hear me?
I've had roles in the same team as Toby, the electrical engineering team and technical support. I've worked as a site engineer. I was then on a secondment for a while to the role of early career specialist. So I was looking at how we bring apprentices and graduates into our business and the recruitment drives that we do for that. And then most recently, I've just finished that secondment, and I'm now working in our business transformation team, looking at a project called Chrysalis, where we're going through a restructure, and we're defining a new operating model with new kind of purpose, values, processes. So I'm supporting the project management for seeing that project through. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you so much. And I know we've got loads of questions coming in, and we've got about 10 more minutes before the break. Just remember that at the end of the day, we're also going to have a Q&A session. So if you do have any questions that you feel we might be able to answer at the end, just remember to keep hold of them and ask them again if we aren't able to get through all the questions. I can see some really, really interesting ones, and I'm going to try and pick out some that I feel that most people would like to be answered. So one I'd like to know about is how do you guys, and I guess any of you can answer this, is how do you feel about the future of RWE?
I'll pick that one up, sure. For me, the future of RWE is fantastic. Looking ahead, we've just taken on the renewable section, we've expanded. It's just absolutely flying as a business. Yeah, thermal power will change, and that will change massively, but the renewables part of our business is huge, and it's a fantastic company to work for. And yeah, the future is just massive. Amazing. It's just an ever increasing and ever growing business. Yeah, fantastic for me.
Amazing, thank you so much. And then there was a question that actually I thought was quite interesting from Sienna, is if you guys are able to answer, if you know it, what is your ratio of female to males within your engineering employees?
So we publish this number as part of our gender pay gap reporting, which is something we do every year, and really proud to be one of the companies that have continued to publish that even through the COVID pandemic, where a lot of companies have taken the option to not continue with that process. So we have a massive commitment to equality, diversity, and inclusion in our organisation, and that's sponsored from the most senior level in the organisation. Currently, within our engineering business in the UK, that number is low. It's about 16% of our colleagues across our engineering business in the UK are female, but that number is growing. And we are focusing on making sure that we have an inclusive workplace for all colleagues. And I think just bearing in mind the kind of history of the business is a heavy engineering business, and the kind of nature and the history of that type of industry in the UK, I think we're around the norm in terms of the proportions, but we do have a focus on improving what we offer in terms of our equality and inclusion, and maximizing the diversity of our workforce is really important.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I mean, so it really goes to show how important D&I is for you guys, and how important it is that no matter what background you're from, if you have a passion for engineering and a passion to work at RWE, go for it, because you're not going to be discriminated on your background or your where you're from, ethnicity, gender, anything like that. So yeah, go for it. Definitely don't let that kind of stuff stop you. And it's amazing to see the importance of D&I here, as it is for us at Pathway. And then I saw a question from, I think it was Sunny. So the question was, and I'm not sure who would be best to answer it, is what exact steps are being taken to increase renewable energy usage and research ways to make it more effective?
I think this is a really interesting question, because I think in terms of the steps that are being taken, ultimately the increase in renewable energy is driven first by government and policy and framework and markets, and private companies respond to where there are opportunities in the marketplace and where we can see an opportunity to make money ultimately. But we also have a clear vision about what we want to offer, and we lobby and we say this is the direction we should be heading in. So RWE works closely with, for example, in the UK, a company called Energy UK, to put forward our view on what that market should look like and help shape it to be something that will be the best possible outcome for the UK. So ultimately, what we do as a business is driven by where we can make money. But we have that involvement in lobbying to ensure that policy is right for the UK as well. So steps, our most senior colleagues are engaging with government on shaping that framework for the future, looking at things like there's two systems at the moment called the capacity market and contracts for difference. And those are the ways where our existing assets, capacity market, are funded and supported, and then our new renewable assets, sustainable assets, are supported through the contracts for difference, as well as nuclear. So that's a key part of it, is setting that framework and policy to be the right direction. And then also there's a technology side of it, and we don't get as involved in the technology side of it, but we do work with our partners who are developing, the newest. For a great example for this is offshore wind turbines. At the moment, we've got teams in our renewables business who are working with technology partners to understand what the potential role of floating wind turbines is. One of the biggest problems or challenges with an offshore wind turbine is the fact that you have to go under the sea and dig a foundation and make that solid to obviously have a very large, tall turbine solid. So if you can remove that part of the process, if you can remove the foundation, you can go to deeper seas, you can go to new areas if that's able to float on the surface. But that just is mind-boggling, the sizes and the physics and the engineering that's going into understanding that. So it's a project that we're looking at, for example, but ultimately we won't be designing that technology. We'll be working with a partner who will be designing that technology for us.
Amazing, thank you so much. And I think perhaps we have time for maybe one more question, and it moves on really well because I know you talked a bit about technology here, to Sanya's question. So Sanya's question is, where do you see the future of energy generation going in the UK, and what technologies are you most excited about?
Arthur.
I see it's becoming far more renewable, with gas basically providing kind of inertia for when. So basically, I see it going mainly wind turbines, and then when the wind doesn't blow, we'll have gas turbines that can be turned on to basically generate power with carbon capture and storage. So where we'd actually capture it so it wouldn't give off any I've lost the word, any CO2 gas. And then what would be quite interesting is then how we could probably pipe it and then bring it to different factories who need it for actual chemical processes. So it'd start this whole like circular economy of us generating electricity, then capturing the carbon and then bringing it into different factories for like steel smelting and whatnot. So I think that'd be quite interesting to see how this kind of like circular CO2 economy starts.
Amazing, thank you so much. And maybe we actually do have time for maybe one more question. And actually, I like this question from Amandeep, and maybe one or two of you can answer it, or all of you, it's up to you. The question is, what is the most challenging part of your job at RWE? If you'd like to go first.
Do you want to go first? Toby?
Go on, who's going?
Sure.
Who's going?
Okay. Well, for me, because I'm mainly so I work a lot with software. So it's sort of challenging and sort of fun as well, because you're discovering, you always have to learn different ways of modeling your system. So usually you hit a block road sometimes, but you do a bit more research and find out, oh, I haven't considered that option. So for me, that kind of aspect of my work is exciting as well as quite slightly challenging, but yeah, you get it.
Mark?
Yeah, I think for me, it's responding to the market needs really is the biggest challenge for us as a site. You know, we can be shutting the power station down every night. We can be running the power station 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We maybe will shut down at night and start up in the afternoon. That's a challenge for the teams on site because they're really constantly moving around and having to respond to, you know, the market requirements. You know, at the end of the day, we're a business and we're here to make money. There's no, that's standard as it is for any type of business. So we respond to that, and that's how we only generate electricity when it's profitable. You know, that's just part of what we do. The other side of that are the 3 o'clock in the morning phone calls to come into work to go and fix something, or someone's not quite sure on something and they just pick a phone up to you. You know, and that's part of the role. That is part of what we do. You know, we are a team, and it's about the teamwork to deliver the best for us. So yeah, 3 o'clock in the morning can be a pain, but hey, it's okay.
Those are really nice insights, and I mean, it shows that you guys really love your jobs to be having those challenges and actually kind of going through them and adapting to those, because your job is actually what you're passionate about. So it's amazing to see that. And thank you everyone for putting in your questions. And for those who we didn't get to come around to, I think there's about 3 questions. Please remember your questions and pop them in again at the end of the day, and we will try our best to come around them if they're not answered throughout the day anyway, because you might see that some of these questions do get answered. I know Chris mentioned separately that a lot of students were asking about CV tips and advice. So what we'll definitely do is share some YouTube links on a follow-up email with our YouTube page, which we have loads of resources for students to access around application tips and advice and how to build your CV. So do look out for that, and we'll share that with you to help you throughout the application process. I'm looking at the chat box right now, and I can see loads of you are putting in some of your key takeaways. And just to like mention some of them, like confidence is so important, and I definitely agree. When I was a student, I really did lack in confidence, but you need to remember that that's like, you have the qualities that you have those qualities, and you just need to show them and make sure that you're able to showcase that to an employer like RWE. If you fail in the interview, ask them for improvement. Your feedback 100% is so important, and it's so great that you can take that from today's sessions with the panelists. Researching the company again, be true to yourself, and I guess being true to yourself is about kind of understanding where you want to work and where your passions lie, and applying for programs where you really are interested in that career route. So that's so great to see all of your key takeaways, and it's so lovely that you guys made the most out of that session. And I kind of wanted to do, before we go on to actually this Q&A part, I wanted to hand it over to Andrew actually to do a wrap up, and then possibly, I don't know whether Andrew you'd prefer to do the Q&A part now and then a wrap up at the end. It's completely up to you. I'll hand it over to you, whatever you feel works best. If you do want to do a Q&A part, students do put messages in the chat, and then we'll come to it as soon as we can. So Andrew, it's up to you.
I think if I do a quick wrap up, hopefully that might jog a few memories about what we've done today, and that might inspire a few more questions as well. So if I just take a couple of minutes to reflect on what we've done today, and hopefully then we can step into the Q&A. We've got quite a few of our panelists still in the chat room, which is great to be able to answer your questions. So firstly, as I do this, I'd just like to take a minute to say a huge thank you to everybody that's run the sessions today, everybody from RWE that's put in the time to prepare and to share their experience on this session today. To our colleague Tom Hoy, who's been a kind of silent partner behind the scenes today for a lot of it, but has put in a huge amount of effort over the past couple of months in coordinating today. Huge thanks to Tom, and likewise to Mark at Little Barford for all the effort that's been put in at that site, and also to Pathways for being our tech gurus and making this work, and all your effort in facilitating and supporting. So thank you to that. And lastly, to all of you as participants and attendees of the day, thanks for joining us. It's been really exciting, and thanks for your participation in questions. I can see there's still loads of questions coming through, and we'll try to get through as many of these as we can. So just to quickly recap, what have we done today? We learned about RWE. We learned about our purpose, our energy for a sustainable life, our ambition to be a carbon neutral operating business by 2040. And a bit more detail then about our flexible and efficient thermal power generation technologies which keep the lights on when the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow, and all of the exciting engineering challenges that sit behind achieving that. We then went on to learn about some specific STEM jobs in those breakout sessions that you can do with RWE, from operating a power station through various maintenance and engineering activities. We then had our tour around Little Barford Power Station near Cambridge, so massive thanks to Matt and Mark for that. That was really exciting. I really enjoyed that and hope you did too. First time that's happened, and something that we're definitely excited to have done. And then our final structured session today was hearing some of the pathway options for what comes next after school, looking at the apprenticeship route, looking at the university route, and hearing some top tips from Karen, who's one of our recruitment partners. I think you've already started writing down in the chat what you'd taken away from the day. I'd just like to reiterate the 3 top tips that I wrote down from Karen's session. Know yourself, do your homework, and reflecting your experience in your CV. So those were 3 top tips that you can take away. For us, today's considered a success if we've inspired even just one of you to pursue a career in science, technology, engineering, or maths. Likewise, if we've helped you to understand on your path what you don't want to do, because that's also really important to know. So hopefully that will have been achieved in today's session. And given this is our first time doing a virtual work experience and virtual insight event like this, we'd also really appreciate your feedback. So I think Pathways might be doing a bit of coordination around that after the event. So please do honestly feedback about the experience. We appreciate there'll be things that could have been improved. There were a few tech glitches, and thanks for bearing with us on that. But please do provide your feedback, and we'll look to, even in a post-COVID scenario, if this might be part of what we do in terms of engagement going forward. So really appreciate if you can provide us that feedback too. And just before we then step into the kind of panel Q&A, I'm not sure if Mark's still with us, but I wanted to invite Mark to offer any further comments that he's had if he's with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been amazing. We've worked really with Pathway now for last, and Chris will correct me if I'm wrong, last 3 years now, I think. And last year was the most successful time we had because we changed our work experience. Everyone does work experience 2 weeks, and 2 weeks working in a power station to deliver work experience is actually quite difficult for us because we want to give you masses of variety, but we still have a business to run. So actually we went away, spent a bit of time with Chris and said, how can we make this better? And we went with snapshots. And so we give people 2 days, 1 day with our operations team, 1 day with our maintenance team. And that's been amazing because people go away going, I've actually felt I've been part of it, rather than, if we've got a power station, we've got problems, people get, they're moved around just to accommodate. So actually, the snapshots have been really, really good. And the work that Pathway put into that meant that last year, I think we got 15 or 16 work experience students through, just to give that bit of experience of what it's like. And, working with a team that has been fantastic. So anything you can take away from today, and just to reiterate what Andrew said, doesn't matter if it's not RWE, that's not what today is about. We've just been a business that have facilitated a program. anything you can go into STEM, it's just amazing. You know, I've been in the power industry now way too long, and I love it. It's just a great place to be. We've got a fantastic team here. You know, you can see people like Rory come through and develop, and they turn up as young people, and they finish their apprenticeship as men. And they're well-rounded, they've got friendships all over the country. It's just an amazing experience, and you know, I would have loved to have had that experience. I don't know how many other companies offer that. That's a little bit of ignorance on my part. I haven't looked around at other companies because I love working here, you know. But utilising Pathway and what Pathway can deliver you and support you guys is just outstanding. And so please stay engaged with them guys right through until you've picked up a role somewhere, because it's amazing. So that's probably it for me.
Thank you so much. And I guess now we can move on to a few questions and kind of wrap up the session with that. Do you have a few questions here? But just want to mention a nice comment from Mikhail actually, saying thank you to Matt for the camera balancing skills. They were amazing for the virtual reality tour. And I think, and so thank you to everyone for the tips from RWE. I definitely agree the virtual reality tool kind of was, the virtual tool was amazing. And I think a lot of students found that so useful. But going into a question actually from Hannah, and I'm not sure who, maybe it's Andrew that would answer this, or if Karen's on the line. So Hannah's asked, are there different apprenticeships that focus on different areas of engineering, or is there a general apprenticeship that covers most of the aspects?
Yeah, so at RWE, we've got when people first join, they apply to a general apprenticeship program, and over the first couple of years, we identify where their kind of natural specialism might lie, and then we typically stream into the engineering disciplines, most commonly electrical, mechanical, control and instrumentation. The NDT apprenticeship, which Mitchell's referenced today, that's a kind of separate application process. And we also have a higher level program, a level 4 traineeship program, which has streams of electrical, control and instrumentation, mechanical and operations. But in terms of the question, typically the application would be to a general program, and then once you're in, we'd work with you to understand where the business need is in terms of specialism, but also what your natural skill sets and interests lie, and we'd stream on that basis. Likewise, across the industry, there's obviously many different specialisms you can go in beyond that.
Oh, amazing. And in terms of the programs that you do have, are there any currently open, or when will they open for applications so that students can apply?
So currently, we don't have any programs live at the moment. What we're doing as a business is we're going through a big restructuring process and reorganizational process to ensure that we can perform and fit for purpose for the future. And it doesn't feel like the most appropriate time to be bringing new people into that business, because we're just trying to learn how that's going to work ourselves with our new renewables colleagues coming into RWE Group, etc. We do have a commitment that traineeships and apprenticeships will be part of our future recruitment strategy, but at the moment we don't know exactly when or how that's going to launch. So I'd encourage everybody to have a look on rwe.com/careers, and you will be able to pick up any opportunities across RWE Group. So that's not just Generation UK, but you'll also see the opportunities for our renewables business and our supply and trading business on that platform, and all of those different parts of the organization will be recruiting for their own programs. For example, within renewables, we'll be looking for wind turbine maintenance engineers, and those programs I think should be kicking off in the next kind of 6 to 12 months in terms of the recruitment for those. So hoping to see some of those filtering through.
Amazing. So do keep an eye out, students, on the RWE page and things like LinkedIn and stuff like that for any opportunities that arise, so that you can be the first to kind of apply.
Likewise, Monty, is it right that we'll be able to promote those opportunities out to people who have participated in today's session?
Yes, exactly. So any opportunities that RWE does have, we'll definitely be in contact with them and post it out to all of the students that are on today's work experience day, as well as students that are generally interested in engineering. So do keep a lookout for emails from us at Pathway, because we are always sharing opportunities that our employer partners have, such as RWE, and we will definitely be out there pushing out all the opportunities after we hear about them. So yeah, definitely. So I have a question from Sunny actually, which is more related to us, and the question is, will we receive a certificate through email? We are planning to send a certificate of attendance to everyone that's attended at the end of the week, so do check your emails, it will come via email. And then we have a question from Ryan, so it's about workplace culture, and I guess anyone could possibly answer this. What's the workplace culture like at RWE? Do they have any facilities and programs in place for employees during their downtime?
I'll probably take what part of that. Yeah, no, every site has something different actually. Sometimes I'll play at Little Barford football, and at Swindon they've got a gym and they've got some facilities, and yeah. So, but the workplace culture is brilliant at RWE. We're all one team, and I think it's something that we all buy into. So it's, you know, I've got friends from RWE outside and inside the company. If that makes sense, I'll hang out with them outside of work too. So they can't be that bad.
Amazing.
Yeah. Building on that one a bit as well, just to share, you know, across the group, we've got a number of employee networks which organise events and activities. So we've got a really strong women's network. We've got a young professionals and trainees network, people that are, you know, doing things social, but also looking at how they can develop themselves to be better performing for the company and for the business. So there's some really, you know, personal driven activities there. RWE's just launched its global LGBTQI network, supporting people from that background, and likewise we've mentioned that kind of equality and inclusion focus within what we do as a business. So culture is a really important aspect of what we do. It plays into everything in terms of, you know, safety on the front line as well as the social, and those aspects are all really important, and we do try to bring them together into one conversation.
Amazing. And something that a recurring theme from today's work experience is the idea of community at RWE, and I've kept hearing about it from everyone, and how you're more like a community and a family rather than just like colleagues. So you can really tell how like the culture is and how everyone's kind of welcomed and made to feel more than just a colleague at RWE. So even from myself from today, it looks like you guys have a great culture, and I'd love to see all the D&I work that you guys do with the networks that you have. So for students, if you are interested in RWE, then definitely look around the networks that you can join once you join them, and that what kind of activities you can be a part of to promote their kind of D&I initiative. So that great question, Ryan. We've got a question from Kaylin, so do keep the questions coming in because we do have a few more minutes to answer them. Kaylin's question is it possible to switch between engineering roles within the company?
I think the simple answer is yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Quite a few of us on the call today have done that. You know, whether it's between disciplines or whether it's from different sites to different locations. Mark, do you want to reflect on apprentice to engineer?
Yeah, I mean, like myself, I done the apprenticeship outside of RWE as a mechanical apprentice. Worked in a paper mill. Joined National Power as it was then, but went into the power industry, and I went straight into the operations side. So working in the control rooms, but the underpinning skill of the apprenticeship set me up for that. You know, that really helped me because it helped me understand. When I looked at the pump, I understood what was inside it, and that was really important. You know, I looked at a valve and understood what was inside that valve. So the operations side become a lot easier. So jumping around and moving from engineering disciplines to operations, from mechanical, you know, mechanical into operations is a great move. Control and instrumentation into operations, great move. Electrical into operations. So any skill set you can go across to operations. I'm selling my operations department here. But also vice versa, we have guys go the other way that have done maybe an apprenticeship, spent a bit of time in operations, really understand the power station. The skill set that gives them when they go back into craft skills of mechanical, electrical controls, when they go back into them, they are 100% better because they understand it. They walk out and they onto a piece of equipment that's maybe fouled. They understand it a lot better, and you know it makes a more rounded person. And I would encourage people to move. And Andrew, you know, you've moved around the business in various areas. You jumped across a totally alien move, so from electrical into HR and back again. So massive opportunities within the business to move around, and I would encourage that when them opportunities there.
That's so amazing, and that goes to show how much you can learn at RWE because you won't ever be in one place. You're always moving around. So many learning opportunities and so many opportunities to move around. And with all the people here today are definitely examples of that. we've got a question from Hannah, and Hannah's question is, how many apprentices are taken each year, and is it a very competitive application process?
So I think I'm going to start answering this question reflecting on one of the important changes that we're going to have as part of our new philosophy and new operating model, and that's a portfolio orientated approach. So colleagues will typically where you might have been focused on one power station in the past, you might be thinking about multiple or even a whole fleet in terms of your thought process and optimization going forward. And it's going to be really important for colleagues to have that kind of willingness and interest to support a fleet of power stations, not just one. And I think that's why it's important to kind of frame this one as on a portfolio basis, the volumes and experience that we've had. So site to site, there have been differences looking back, but overall, last year, for example, if we look at the numbers, we took on, I think, about 12 apprentices and technicians across the portfolio on level 4 and level 3 trainee programs, apprenticeships. And for that, we had in the order of 600 applications overall. So fairly significant number. And there was a big process in terms of getting to know candidates through site visits, testing using the kind of ability testing process where people would come to site and go through stages like that. Then the assessment center itself with multiple stages of interview to get to know the candidates, get to know their true interests, get to know their skills, etc. And identify the best candidates for those opportunities.
Amazing, thank you so much. And I guess that should answer your question. We've answered all the questions from the students, so I thought it might be great to end on a question where I can get all of the RWE panelists involved that are on right now, and just to kind of answer in maybe 3 words max, what made you choose RWE? So should I perhaps go down with who I can see on my screen and just pick you out to start with? So I can see Karen. So what made you choose RWE in 3 words? Don't think we can hear you yet. You might have to unmute yourself.
Right, am I unmuted now?
Can hear you.
Interesting, challenging in some respects, and supportive.
Amazing. Nice 3 words to wrap it up. I'll go on to, who do I have next? I think I have, one sec. I have Toby. Toby, you might be on mute as well.
Just noticed. I would go very welcoming. Can I also go interesting? Because generators are fun. And fun.
Amazing, fun, yeah, fun. Definitely, I've got that from today as well. Everyone seems like they're always in always happy and always kind of in a really good environment. So fun seems like a good one. Next, I'm not sure if Laura's on the line. Laura? If not, I can't hear you. So if you're not, then what about Rory? I can see Rory.
Are we on mute? No.
No.
Opportunity, people, and money.
Amazing. nice free way to wrap it up. Mitchell?
Security, probably opportunities as well, and enjoyment.
Great, nice. Mark?
What one?
Mark Waterman. I've got Mark.
Hello. I think opportunity, exciting, and people.
Amazing. And the other Mark, I guess.
For me, development, supportive, and caring.
Great. Arthur?
Electricity is useful.
I like that.
That's a nice one. That's different to everyone else. I think it was Tom. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Brilliant. I think very similar to other people, really. I think opportunity, development, people. That's the main three, I think.
And before I go into Andrew, I hope I haven't missed anyone else out. Don't think I have. Do shout if I have. I'm sorry if I have, because we do have a lot of people from RWE on today. But if not, then Andrew, wrap it up in 3 words.
I promise I wrote these down before I listened to everybody else's. I wrote down community, development, and opportunity. Development being personal development.
Perfect. Thanks so much, guys. And I hope that kind of gives you guys an idea of like how amazing these employees at RWE find it working over there. So thanks, guys, so much. And moving on now to kind of wrap up the session. Again, if you can, now that we're at the end, you probably have a few more key takeaways that you can pop into the chat, and it would be good to kind of hear what it is. And maybe again, I'll ask, what was your favorite part? It might still be for some of you, I know you said the site tour, and it might still be whatever it was when I asked you before, but it might have changed now. So it'd be great to know your main key takeaways again, and what was your favorite part of the day. In terms of next steps, we really want you guys to be able to use this opportunity for your benefit in terms of your future career, and a great way for you to utilize this work experience day is to add it to your LinkedIn. So we've got an example here using Ellie, who you would have seen earlier on how to add this to your profile section to show that you attended this work experience day. And it'll be really useful for you in terms of when you're applying to jobs and employers look at your LinkedIn profile to see your experience, and they will see there that you are really interested in this field and working, you have come across and taken out your time to come to work experience days like this. So definitely do add it on, and make sure you create your LinkedIn first, add it to your profile section, and then add it as a course with Pathway CTM Work Experience Day, and then you can add RWE onto that. And then you can add in a bit more information if you like around what the day consisted of and what you learned. And also, it would be great if, whilst you're all on the chat right now, I'm going to share a quick survey with you for you to complete whilst you're on there. But if you're not able to complete it right now, we will also send it up on a follow-up email. So it'd be great just for you to complete that, so that you know we can develop these kind of sessions for you in the future and really understand what worked well and where we can improve it for you going forward. So it'll be really, really great if you guys complete that. Definitely follow RWE and Pathway on all our social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook and LinkedIn. I can see Chris and Andrew have commented some ats on there, so do follow us wherever you can and keep up to date. For example, Andrew did mention earlier that they'll be posting about their programs when they open, and we will definitely let you know. But also for your peace of mind and just to keep updated with what's going on, do follow us, so we'll be updating things all the time. And it's been great to have you all on, so I'm so pleased that you so many of you joined today, and I really hope that you were able to take a lot from this experience. Following on from this session, we will send you an email. You will get a certificate for the attendance, so do look out for that certificate. And then we'll send you an email with the recordings from today's session, as well as a few more kind of resources that I know there was a video that we couldn't play, so we'll try and grab that off from RWE. And we'll share some of our resources to our YouTube page, so you can kind of help in developing your CV, LinkedIn and everything like that. And we will share this survey again if you can't fill it out, and anything else that might be useful, we'll share that with you too. But it's been absolutely amazing having you, and I just really want to say a big thank you to everyone from RWE that joined today. It's been absolutely amazing, and thank you so much for your time. I know the students have found it so useful, so thank you so much. If anyone's got anything else to say, feel free to jump in now. Otherwise, we will finish probably 5 minutes early, and let you guys go and get 5 minutes of your day. But well done everyone, and thank you so much for joining.